the socials and shit.
We're live.
All right. Perfect timing there. Just horrible loud snort.
We are doing a mic check here, everybody.
Just be patient.
We will be going live in about 2 minutes or so.
A few minutes. Excellent condition according to this.
We're live.
All right. Perfect timing there. Just horrible loud snort.
We are doing a mic check here, everybody.
Just be patient.
We're going to be hearing some echo.
We are.
Sorry about the echo, everybody. But the mic check is sounding good, so whenever Kristoff...
Almost ready.
Yeah, just let me know.
Alrighty. Tara, I hear you. Alrighty, I think we are all set. Just let me mute my equipment here. There's that. Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Tara, I hear you. Alrighty, I think we are all set. That. Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
All right.
Alright, and let's give it. I think that's how we're. Let's wait for one more minute.
All right, we're going to wait for one more minute.
Want to give people a chance to actually show up and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
We got the chat there. It really sucks that we can't like do this final test stuff. That was intentional, by the way, folks. Don't worry.
That was intentionally me muting us.
Yep. All right. I think we are ready to go, Mr. Bishop.
Okay.
3, 2. We're alive. That was intentional, by the way, folks. Don't worry. We are live and ready to go. We've got a couple people actually here tonight. Hello, everybody. Of course, everything falls apart right now. All right. Hello, Tara. Hello, Mr. Bishop again. All righty. I meant it. And I actually mean it, by the way. I did mean to do that. All right. So, welcome back, everybody. This is From One Side to the Other, once again. I am your host, Kristoff N. Chester, and a little disclosure here. This is going to be a show about death. We are going to be talking about the whole being dead thing with ghosts and famous hauntings. Real quick, I want to thank everybody who showed up last week and hopefully will show up in the future. But we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. And I've actually got my notes all ready this time. So what we're talking about are, like I said, ghosts and hauntings. And, well, what exactly is that? You know, there were a lot of people actually that were wanting us to talk about ghosts with the cryptids last week. And I put ghosts in their own very unique area. Because one, a ghost is supposed to be a dead person. A dead person. The spiritual or conscious remains of a person when the body is gone, so to speak. Now, what that entails is a bit more complicated. You know, people talk about souls and then other dimensions and stuff like that, but we're gonna try and keep it narrow and stick to specifics here. Now, what's funny is that ghosts are really kind of how we as humans deal with death in a way, if you think about it. Everybody has a ghost story. Every culture has tons of them, and it's kind of funny actually, because you can really see distinct differences of how people deal with ghosts depending on where they're from and their backgrounds and stuff. It's very almost amusing at times. What is going on with the screen? There we go. Okay, sorry about that. And I wanted to open it with, there are different kinds of ghosts, and there are different kinds of what are called paranormal investigators, or ghost hunters, if you will. Now, ghosts basically come in three categories. There's what are called loops. Now, a loop is, it's not actually interacting with the world around it. It's basically the story of how, you know, Old Man Jenkins, he's appeared every week by the train tracks at 2 a.m. You'll see him if you've been drinking enough. You know, or the ghost of some old princess in the Tower of London who wanders up and down it. You know, they don't interact with the world around them. They just repeat a single moment in time. What's funny is those used to be the most common ghosts, and now you hardly ever hear about them, like, at all anymore. So I guess that's just kind of how ghost stories and legends evolve over time. Now, the second one is what are sometimes referred to as conscious apparitions. Now, what that refers to is something that can interact with the world around it. Usually it can't be seen, though. These are things like EVPs and cold spots. Residual, yeah. Some people call them residual hauntings. Excuse me. Thank you, Tara. Anyway, conscious apparitions are active. You can talk to them, for lack of a better term. A lot of people have a lot of different ways for interacting with them. One is a scrying crystal, which is literally a rock tied to a piece of string that you hold still, and you tell the ghost to move the string around to communicate. Famously in America, the TAPS team would use flashlights and have the ghosts allegedly turn the flashlights on and off to indicate they're there. But of course, the big famous one, the one that everybody knows, is EVPs, which is electronic voice phenomena, which is where you're somehow able to record a voice that no one heard talking at the time. And some of these get really creepy. There are some very famous ones, very strange phenomena. And then, of course, there are also ones that are just painfully silly. Kind of like I was talking about last week with the cryptids. I love all this stuff. I love the mysterious. I love the weird. I love the unknown. I will acknowledge a majority of it is probably faked, or mistakes were made, things like that. And in a weird way, that's kind of half the fun of it. Like, a regular pastime that we do around here is we'll watch ghost videos and we'll just be like, how'd they do that? We'll just tear these videos apart. I keep joking with the bishop over there in the corner that we need to actually like film ourselves doing it, just heckling the tar out of ghost videos, because a lot of them are pretty funny. But anyway, conscious apparitions are becoming more and more common. But then we have the big one, the bad ones, which are commonly referred to as shadow people. Now, there's a lot of arguments about what shadow people are. Some people say that they're actually demons or they're trans-dimensional creatures. I personally put them in the category of ghosts just because of the fact that they tend to show up in hauntings a lot. And while they may not actually be dead people, they're close enough in that group that I'll put them there. And they're pretty bad. They are very often aggressive. A lot of stories will say that they're ticked off if you try to acknowledge them. Like if you try to contact them, that really ticks them off. I know a lady. I won't say her name because obviously I don't have permission to say her name. She claimed that she actually saw one trying to play peekaboo with her in a bathroom. She was laying on the couch and she could see down the hallway of her house, and there was this child-size blackness that kept poking its head around the corner, and she finally said, "I see you," and it stopped. And later on, not too far later, she actually got attacked. She claimed that she was actually pinned down in her bed by something she couldn't see. And so if you see a shadow person, no you didn't. That almost always across the board angers them. They do not like to be seen. They do not like to be addressed. Whatever the hell they are. Possibly literally. Whatever they are, do not provoke or even acknowledge them. That always will set them off. But now that we have the three ghosts, let's talk about the living people. You know, the ones you shouldn't trust. It's kind of funny, because like you can almost see these clear lines of culture across the board of how people deal with ghosts and how people go about investigating them. My personal favorite example is actually in Mexico. In Mexico, everybody lives in a haunted house. I have never, and this might sound a bit racist to say, but I'm going to say it. I've never met a Mexican who didn't have some kind of first-hand ghost experience. I knew a kid growing up in Indio. They moved into a house that was built in our own lifetime. We saw the construction site. And his father swore up and down that there was a haunted room. A haunted room in this newly built house. But that's kind of the thing. What's funny is, they all talk about ghosts. There's 1,000 ghost stories in their culture, and we'll get to a big one in a little bit here, so stick around. But in a weird turn of fate, you almost never see paranormal investigators, or investigations even, in Mexico. It's the funniest thing. Ghosts and the dead are such an important part of the Mexican culture that in a weird way, I think it's mundane. In America and in England, we hear about ghosts and stuff, and it's like, this is the weirdest thing ever. In Mexico, it's like, wait, you only heard one ghost? Where's the rest of them? It's kind of funny, actually, that it's so normal in that part of the world that, yeah, they don't do investigations all that much. And yes, I know, guy who lives in the bushes. I know this one YouTuber who does investigations in Mexico. Yes, we know. They do exist, yes. But I'm saying, in comparison to the rest of the world, you almost see none of this kind of stuff in Mexico. Now, speaking of North America, in Canada, America, and even across the pond in the UK, paranormal investigators take a very consistent approach to ghosts. Run like hell. I guarantee everyone in the chat, all of you here, we've all seen a video of some guy who's doing an urban exploration video who hears something or sees some guy come around a corner and he immediately turns around and books it. That is the Western world's solution to ghost hunting. Just run away. Run as quickly as possible. And meanwhile, in the more Middle Eastern regions, it's very odd because they don't run away over there when they're investigating ghosts. They pray. I have seen so many Middle Eastern ghost investigation videos. I'm an atheist, and I think I could recite Islamic prayer by now because that is their go-to defense. They pray. There's a running joke that they also love to kick doors. I don't know how effective that is. I don't know about that, but I will say their solution to every paranormal thing is just to pray. Now, of course, to be fair, that's also a very spiritual, religious part of the world, too. But it's still interesting how you see these different cultures create different, well, I guess cultures, really. They have different, ways of addressing ghosts and the paranormal. And then you have places like Japan and China, Korea, Vietnam, things like that, Taiwan. The answer is to get angry. It's kind of funny. There was that's their solution. Get loud and shout profanities. Probably my favorite paranormal investigation video was these two guys. I want to say they were in Japan, and they were in like an old construction site, and a hard hat fell over and like rolled across a hallway, and the guy holding the camera just screams something that's bleeped out, but the translations at the bottom of the screen showed he was shouting, "F your mother, F your mother," because a hat rolled by. Something good? Don't forget, Mom. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Hi, Tara. Hi, everybody. It's wonderful to see you all here. Hi, Connie. But back to my point. It's funny. Those are the three big ones. In Japan, they get loud and vulgar and aggressive. In the Middle East, they pray, but they stand their ground. You don't see them run a lot. They stand very firmly and they pray. And then you have England, all of Europe really, and North America, who we just get the hell out of there. Like, it's the funniest thing in the world. You'll see some paranormal investigator talking trash, challenge a ghost, they feel a stiff breeze, and they vault out the door. You'd think Jason was behind him or something. It's kind of funny. But those are the big... those are the big ways that people do paranormal investigations. Now, there's a lot of tools that are used in them. I don't know if people still use this, but anyone remember the Xbox Kinect? I've seen people that like to use those because they have an infrared scanner thing, and they can detect movement. And some people try to use those to detect ghosts and spirits. But, yeah, paranormal investigating is weird. And it's kind of funny because it really is universal. And like I said before, I think it's because deep down, ghosts are kind of a way for us to confront death. Whether it's, affirming that there's an afterlife or things like that. For some people, it's more, I think it's about control. Excuse me. It's about controlling the fear of death. It makes it confrontable in a sense. You know what I mean? It's less scary when it's, the ghost of your grandpa or something. That's not scary compared to, the image of like the Reaper kind of thing. But yeah, it's always transfixed and held interest all around the world, whether you're spiritual or you're not, whether you're a skeptic or you're a thrill seeker. Everybody loves ghost stories and, is willing to go out there and look for stuff. I keep saying that I want to do it someday, but I don't really know where to go. Because, I mean, personally, I don't know if you guys can tell from this camera angle, I'm not in the best of shape. And there's a lot of haunted places that have stairs. Another problem is that I'm not doing that alone. So I need to find a few friends that are foolish enough to go with me into the old creepy abandoned manor where like 5 people were murdered or something. And all I've got is the bishop over there in the corner. So, yeah. Quick shout out to the chat. If you are willing to go into the creepy abandoned mill where 5 people were murdered, let me know. It'd be fun as hell. Oh, yes, Tara. Yeah, I grew up in a haunted house myself, actually. Yeah, Jet. Yeah, no, we had all kinds of weird stuff in the house we grew up with. And now everybody in the chat's like, yeah, let's do this. There you go. That'll be it. There you go. We'll do that for like the celebration when we reach like 500 subscribers. I'll have you guys fly out to Colorado and we'll find some haunted place to look around in. That like I said, that'd be a fun time. But no, there were all kinds of weird stuff in the house I grew up in. We had objects move. We had cold spots. I actually had a personal experience with an apparition. So, before we get into the next topic, I was going to talk about famous hauntings and specific ghost stories. I'll start with my own, actually. I was very young, and this is probably one of the very few times I was left home alone, actually. Now, my bed was on this big raised platform thing. There was this huge, well, for me, huge crawl space underneath my bed, and I had to use a ladder to climb up into my bed. I'm kidding. Everybody's on board for this. Teach me to open my big mouth, huh? Anyway, and so there was this, I had to climb this little stepladder thing to get up into my bed. And as I was climbing, this pale white, and when I say pale, I mean it was like a sheet of paper. It was as white as you could possibly imagine. Reached out between the rungs of the ladder and grabbed onto my leg. And I distinctly remember it so clearly. And part of it is because it hurt. It was so cold. It felt like it was burning. I know that's kind of dramatic. I really wish I could say it better or explain it better, but that's literally what happened. And it grabbed onto my leg, and of course I screamed bloody murder. And what's interesting is my dog Star, she came running into the room, and this thing from underneath the bed, it screamed like it was terrified, and it let go of me and it retreated back into the dark. But here's the thing, the ladder, which was nailed into the bed frame, actually came loose and fell backwards. I wasn't hurt, thankfully, but I was certain it was Tara. I was certain it was my sister, who's in the chat, by the way, I think. I saw her earlier. There you are. Yeah, she's here. I was sure it was her. So I grab Star's collar, and me and her go underneath the bed into the crawl space, and there was nothing there. There was no one there, and there was no way anyone could have gotten out of that crawl space. There was, I mean, even if they retreated all the way to the other exit, to the other side, that would have just put them in my room. And there's only one door to the room, which is where I and Star came from. So if it was a person, they would have had to have been probably the most agile ninja person in the world. There was no way that they could have maneuvered around that room without me and Star finding them. Now, what was that? I don't know. It was a pale hand that was freaking cold. I can only confirm that. I don't know what else it was. Well, that's not true. I could also say that it was apparently Deathly Afraid of Star. Which, quick aside note, Star's collar is actually something we integrated into the Vagrant's costume in our regular show, the Vagrancy Horror. Just a little bit of a side there. But yeah, what it was, I don't know. Not that mean. The laundry room. Oh, yes, the laundry room. The laundry room / garage was another hot spot. My sister, we constantly felt really weird there, like we were being watched. My sister heard lots of noises. We actually turned it into like a tiny little miniature studio thing for my mom. And that's the weird thing. She was fine. She is fine. It was me and Tara who kept seeing and hearing weird shit from there. Damn it, I said... Trying so hard not to do that. Now we'll never get monetized. As if I care. But yeah, we had shadow people in there. We heard noises a lot of the times. I hated having to go out and do laundry because I would have to be right next to the door to that studio. And it's funny because growing up I had another dog named Duke. Duke was a pure breed Shar-Pei. We called him Fathead because he was the most stubborn and ready to go at any time dog I've ever met in my life. He literally tried to pick a fight with a storm. It was raining and he was barking at the sky like he was going to kick its ass. And even he wanted nothing to do with that garage. Even he, probably the bravest, most dumb dog I ever met, even he would stand at the door to the garage and watch me go in to change out the laundry. It's like, I got your back, buddy, from here. Yeah, no, you're good. Nope, not going in there. Nope, boy's gonna die. So whatever was out there was very, very strong and very nasty. Like I said, I got lots of cold spots I would find throughout the house. And that was, that was like just daily life, honestly. It really did get to the point that was like, yeah, oh, there's another weird noise in the night. Oh, there's another shadow person. There's all that weird shit. Rule number 3, stop cursing so much, Kristoff. I know, Bishop. The Bishop, in true fashion, is counting my curses over there. That's right. Yes, Chet. We even had someone die in my house. I remember that now. I can't believe I forgot that. My great-grandfather passed away. No way. Really? Wait, hold on. Christmas Eve? Really? He died Christmas Eve? Yep, there was also as you can see in the chat, my sister refers to as the walking head. There was this time we were taking pictures and we got just this shadow person's head in the window to the kitchen. And we don't know who or what it was, because to cast a shadow like that, you would need to be freaking tall. Yeah, okay. So in the chat, there's a whole mythos happening right now, so I'll narrate. Apparently, on Christmas Eve in 1976, my great-grandfather passed away in the room that became my sister's bedroom. And that's, like I said, just one of the very weird, strange happenings that occurred in my childhood. That was my childhood. And some of you wonder how I turned out the way I did. But yeah, no. My house was very strange, very, very peculiar. Even before we started watching horror movies all the damn time. Yeah. Our neighbor, who I affectionately refer to as my Aunt Leah, her house was haunted too. All kinds of weird stuff. Um, yeah. um, it's kind of funny. I was like, I could mention that I had a haunted house, growing up, and now it's becoming like the whole conversation of the chat with my family. The chat is just filled with my family members sitting there talking about their personal experiences and so on. But yeah, that was my childhood. Um, we're gonna roll into the next topic though. We're gonna talk about some famous ghosts and famous hauntings. This was one that was requested by actually a few people. The Legend of La Llorona. And I'm really hoping that I'm pronouncing that correctly. La Llorona? Which roughly translates to... I've heard some different things, actually. I've heard some people say it translates to crying, like the crying person, or the crying woman, or the weeping woman, is what a lot of people call her. And it's funny because, like I said, I had multiple people ask me, talk about La Llorona, talk about La Llorona. I guess apparently she's like almost the equivalent of Bigfoot in Mexico, and even in parts of South America they talk about her. Which actually is kind of annoying. It kind of got complicated. Because when I actually looked up into it, everybody and their ugly sister has some kind of explanation or account of this creature and this character. There are some people who say that the legend dates back to the 1500s, actually. The oldest date I could find tied to La Llorona was 1550, which would mean she... Oh, hey, hi Dino, the Late Late Horror Show. Hello, great to see you here this time. It's funny, we gave you a shout out last week in the show and actually broke the audio. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. But anyway, like I said, La Llorona dates back to the 1500s, specifically the year 1550, which, to put that into context, that is over 100 years before the original infamous Bigfoot footage was shot. La Llorona is probably the oldest, at least so far, is the oldest legend that we've even touched on this channel and this topic. And because of that, there's a lot of different explanations about it. Some people say it's actually even older than that, and it dates back to the earliest pagans. Other people say that it's actually not that old at all. They try to draw comparisons to other kinds of supernatural creatures. It's actually very difficult to find online. People just talk about La Llorona. But I was able to find a little bit of information about her. Gonna try and do her justice, because apparently this is a big one, actually. This is a big one for our some of our esteemed friends in the chat and of the channel, so I want to do this one justice. Now, as the story goes, and again, it varies slightly, but whichever version you want to go off of, the point of it is La Llorona was a woman who got impregnated. Now, in some versions, she was raped. In some versions, she was actually a whore. Some say she was an adulteress. It's usually a bad indication of how the baby was born. Yes, I'll get to that in a second, Chet. Now, however the pregnancy came about, she couldn't keep the baby. Whether it was a rape or adultery or whatever it was, for whatever reason, she decided she couldn't keep the child. Now, some of the stories say it was a girl, some say it was a boy. Most of them say it was a boy, but kind of doesn't matter really. But it's weird how it's divided like that. The baby changes, but what happened is, for whatever reason, she was either ashamed or she was frightened. There are some stories that say that she was raped by this powerful land baron, and so she had to hide the baby. And for whatever reason it was, some say it was a conquistador, some say it was a priest, doesn't matter. The goal, the end result, I should say, was that she drowned it in a river. She gave birth to it, and yeah, she just gave it the world's worst baptism. And from there, the story branches into two directions. There are some who say she was so guilt-ridden of what she did that she drowned herself. Now, another version of the story says that she went on and lived her life, and when she died, she stood before the gates of heaven, and she was told, go away. She was turned away from heaven until she could find the soul of her baby for the baby to testify that she could go to heaven. And because of this, La Llorona always appears around some large body of water. Some people refer to her as the River Lady, is another nickname for her. She usually is seen in a white dress or gown of some kind, sobbing or screaming in some cases. But the idea is that she's looking for the baby that she drowned. Now, some stories will claim that if you try to interact with this creature, or spirit, I should say, she'll attack you and she'll try to drown you. I really wish Zeus was here in the chat, considering that he was the one who campaigned the hardest for this. I mean, a couple people. Bishop, you want to do some divine intervention here? With your phone?
Oh, I already texted. That's what I meant. I texted
Oh,
him.
mother...
Yeah, I already texted him to get in the chat.
The bishop over in the corner, ladies and gentlemen. After we argued for like half an hour about hand signals, you do a hand signal that you didn't mention to me. Oh, we'd be dangerous if we were professionals, I tell you that. But anyway, it's interesting because regardless of the variation, and there's a million variations to it. I mean, it's annoying. Because again, I'm scrolling through article after article. I'm looking at different pages about the supernatural, and the big plot points are always the same. She got pregnant, she drowned her baby, and now, as a spirit, she haunts large bodies of water, and she makes crying and screaming sounds. But there's so many variations of so many details. Again, like I said, some stories say that she was a prostitute, some say that she was raped. The common one I found was that she was an adulteress, that she had an affair. And I don't know why you would jump straight to drowned the baby. By the way, I'm sure that the YouTube algorithm's just gonna love this show, this episode, devoting almost 5 minutes nonstop to talking about drowning the baby. Make a t-shirt of that. That's going to be the very first Vagrancy horror merchandise, folks. Pre-order now. Drowned the baby t-shirts. But it's almost frustrating that there's so many versions and so many variations, like I said before. And I know I'm kind of repeating myself. But yeah, like, it's so weird. Because, like, it's almost the opposite of well, not quite the opposite, but it's different than Bigfoot. Because everyone has a story about Bigfoot. About how they saw Bigfoot. Or, you know, to a degree, like Chupacabra or the Mothman, things like that. Everyone has a story. But with, what's it? She had an affair with a married man. Yeah, that's one version I saw, Chet, was that she had an affair. Like I said, but it's weird because, like, most cryptids and urban legends and stuff like that, it'll have an origin story, and then everybody has their own account. With La Llorona, it's almost the opposite. everyone has the same experience. They saw the lady in the water and they ran away. Excuse me. And then they go backwards, and the origin is what splinters off and changes from time to time. So it's kind of weird. She's like the backwards cryptid, if you will. But yeah, just real quick. Why would you jump to that solution? Remember last week when I was saying how stay out of the water of California and just don't go to West Virginia? Because you're going to find something weird. Excuse me, just a second here, guys. You know, I'm just going to put it out there. Don't drown the baby! I don't know why I even have to say that. Why would you jump to that idea? I get that there was something bad that happened, so that, you know, she couldn't keep the baby, or, you know, like, come on. Even in the 1500s, there had to be another solution than murdering the baby. No. I'm choking myself here, laughing about this very unfunny thing. I'm good. Hi, Sean. Sean finally showed up. Hey, dude. After I almost kill myself laughing at the drowning baby jokes. Oh. So how did you lose your channel, Kristoff? Well, you see. But no, I never understood that part of the story. It's like, what? Why would you jump to that? Why would you go there? But apparently that's what happened, and now we have just shy of 500 years worth of stories and legends. There are versions of there's Weeping Lady in the U.S. also. Cumberland Falls. Have to look into that one. Maybe we can talk about that in a future episode. The American Weeping Lady. See, I've heard people talk about the Weeping Lady here in North America. You hear a lot about her in like the southwestern region, California, Nevada, New Mexico, things like that. But yeah, I am not familiar with Cumberland Falls, Kentucky? KY? There you go. Okay, well, there goes the bishop. He's going to check up on that one. She was made out of the baby. Ugh! Jiminy Christmas! Really, Chet? She was a maid that got rid of the baby because he was wealthy and paid her to drown the baby. That must have been a very awkward conversation. Also, we are going to stop talking about killing babies on this channel, I promise. In just a minute, but not quite yet. Because the next one we're going to talk about also has to do with a dead baby, unfortunately. I can just see the bishop cringing over in the corner there. Probably one that you'll all be very familiar with, one that I'm sure you've heard of. And this is going to be a fun one. It's probably, maybe actually the most famous haunting in North America. And it almost was the grand finale, except for a lot of information I read about it that made it really sad. And I decided to put it in the middle. Winchester Manor. Now, Winchester Manor, or the Winchester Mystery House, as some people call it, is very, very old. She was getting married in the fall. Well, like I said, we're getting sidetracked here. I will look into that, Chet, and maybe we can talk about it in a future episode, actually. Because spoiler warning, there will be a next week and there will be another episode, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Right now, Winchester Manor, a place that I argue is probably, at least one point in time, it was the most well-known haunting in America. Which is funny when you actually look at the details and you actually learn about it. Now, when we talk about Winchester Manor, we have to have the very uncomfortable conversation about Sarah Winchester, the lady who actually oversaw the construction of the manor. Now, excuse me, sorry. Okay. I thought my nose was bleeding for a second there. Anyway. Now, the story goes that she was driven mad by the ghosts of people who were killed by the Winchester repeater. A revolutionary and very, very popular type of gun. Hell, even today it's still sought after by collectors, even though it's, I mean, obviously nowhere near as effective or powerful as anything we have today. It's still seen as like an iconic piece of history. I think it's a pretty cool rifle myself. I mean, I'm not a big gun guy, so I'm not going to say that. But anyway, the ghost story goes that she thought the ghosts of people killed by Winchester rifles were coming for her. And so she started building this elaborate mansion full of fake doors, stairways to nothing, windows that that looked into other rooms, and things like that to confuse the ghosts and keep them from getting to her. Now, the story that I've learned since doing this research is that sounds sad, and the truth is it's so much worse than you're thinking. You have no idea. So the origin of this is people claim that in 1881, she met a medium in Boston named Adam Kuhn. Now, it's very strange they actually give him a name, because in a lot of ghost stories, they're usually vague and mysterious about it. But she met this man named Adam Kuhn, who told her that the spirits were coming for her, and she had to build a house that would confuse them and keep them distracted, or else. Now, why would she believe that? And this is where we get into the true history, the past. My nephew doesn't want to go to the Winchester Mansion. He's afraid he'll be haunted. Well, like I said, it gets so much worse than people realize. But in the time span between 1980 and 1981, her mother, her father-in-law, her husband, her older sister, and her 6-month-old baby, yep, there they go again, dead babies, all died. In the span of 2 years, she lost her sister, her mother, her father-in-law, her husband, and her child. And basically, the way the story goes, this medium, Adam Kuhn, told her that it was a curse. That the hundreds of people who have been killed by Winchester rifles, their ghosts are coming after you and your family. Now, what's tragic is that it actually may have been kind of even worse than that. See, oddly, the story is very specific. It says Adam Kuhn was a medium in Boston. There's just one problem. There's no evidence of an Adam Kuhn of any kind in Boston, let alone a supposed psychic. A lot of people, since in the coming decades, because actually we're getting pretty. It's been a little while, hasn't it, folks? Because she started construction in 1882 of the house. Now, a lot of people wonder, why is it built in California? It's in San Jose, California, when her family, the Winchesters, lived prominently up in the Northeast. Well, here's the sad truth about Miss Sarah. She, according to accounts of people who knew her, she was borderline schizophrenic. She was actually very impatient. She was spastic. She would get confused a lot. She'd be very forgetful. I've heard some people argue that by today's standards, we'd say she had like ADHD or something like that. And a lot of people say that it actually was her husband who kind of kept her under control and like looked after her, and then he was gone, and she was suddenly in charge of the Winchester enterprise. Really, so the company was still making rifles. They might still be making rifles today. Is Winchester? Yeah, they're still a thing. I think they're still. I think they still operate actually.
Yeah.
But she was in charge, and there's a lot of stories that, like I said, she was very difficult to deal with. She was very scatterbrained. She would get confused. She would contradict herself. And a lot of people ask, well, what is actually the story of the manor? Why is it the way it is? Why is it shaped so strange? Why does it have, stairs that go to nowhere? The chat's saying that Winchester is still a thing. Founded 1866. Wow. Cool. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big gun guy myself. I mean, they're cool, I guess. But anyway, and the sad thing is that she had a younger sister. Mr. Bishop, I will explain exactly why specifically Winchester. It actually sadly makes sense. Because she had a younger sister who kind of tried to look after her. Now, when I say she was like borderline schizophrenic and hyperattention disorder, stuff like that, I'm not saying she was like sitting in a corner dribbling and, making weird noises. She more or less could function. The problem was that, like I said, she'd get confused. She would get distracted. The original Remington fact. I have not heard of that one. I might have to look that one up too. The Remington factory is supposedly haunted. That's interesting. But anyway, so her little sister kind of helped her and stuff. But the reason that the manor is so convoluted and weird was because she literally would draft up plans for a floor or for a room, and while the crew was building, she would go and change it. And the problem is, no one really wanted to fight her or confront her about it. They just, yes ma'am, we'll do what you say. And so the house became more complicated and contradictory. Now, here's the thing. As Mr. K.E. Bishop put it, why the connection to the Winchester rifles? Here's why. When she passed away in the 1920s, I believe, I didn't actually... Hold on. Let me double check that. Dang, I did not put that down. I believe she died in 22. I was right. It was the 1920s. She passed away in 1922. And her younger sister basically took over things. Supposedly, according to a couple sources that I was looking into, her younger sister spread the stories herself about Adam Kuhn and how there were ghosts and they were scared that the spirits of people killed by Winchester rifles were coming from them. Because she, I guess, would rather her sister be remembered as being scared of ghosts and building this insane house rather than the truth that she was crazy. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that that's the truth. I'm not going to sit here and say that's right or wrong. I'll say that I understand. I understand if it's true. If her younger sister spread the ghost stories to cover up the fact her sister was schizophrenic, I get it. That's painfully tragic and horribly sad. But yeah, supposedly she wasn't scared of ghosts at all. It was just that she couldn't keep a straight thought. She just constantly came in and changed the plans, and they just kept building like she said, because hey, she had the money. I mean, heck, back then Winchester was making a profit of $1,000 a day. I mean, and this is back in the 1800s. I mean, this is when like things were expensive if they cost a couple dollars. And she had thousands per day. I mean, they just, yes ma'am, yep, sure, we'll put a wall there. We just finished a staircase that's supposed to go to the second floor, but we'll just put a wall there. It's fine if that's what you want, ma'am. Hey, the checks aren't bouncing. There was one story I saw. There was a tower. There was supposed to be a tower built with the Winchester house. And supposedly, in her delusions, she kept saying that it wasn't right, that they were building it wrong. They weren't following her specific directions. They were all the wrong proportions, and so they built it and tore it down 17 times. Back and forth, building and demolishing this one part of the freaking house. And that's the thing, is like, no one hid it. Everyone said she was apparently an absolute horror to work for. She was confusing, and she would change her mind. And, you know, that's actually a good question I'd put for the chat. What would you do if you were Sarah's little sister? Would you rather people just think she was crazy and schizophrenic, or would you prefer that they think she was scared of ghosts, and would you tell ghost stories about it? I'm kind of curious about what you guys think. How many people we got here? Yep, there was an earthquake that also knocked out part of the building. Wow, we got over a dozen people in here. Nice. Well, but yeah, what would you have done? Would you just tell the truth and say, yeah, she was borderline out of her mind? Or would you make up a ghost story to make her not crazy? And what's worse in that case, too? I mean, would you rather be remembered as being scared of ghosts or being schizophrenic? Tara, for love of a sibling, it was Casper. Sorry guys, allergies are hitting me really bad. My lungs are horrible tonight. But we're not stopping. We're not stopping for a damn thing. If it's ever Wednesday night and you don't see me, it's probably because I'm dead. I'm gonna do this no matter what. But yeah, I'm gonna give people a second to, tell me what you think, guys. Don't be shy. Don't be quiet here. Come on. Funny, we have like, my thing is saying 17 people in here, something like that. Back then, there was probably a bigger stigma with being schizophrenic than believing in ghosts. Yeah, that's actually a very good point, Sean. That is true. Winchester Mystery House is still open. It still takes tours. They still will tell you all kinds of ghost stories. There's stories about like cold spots and weird noises and things like that. I'd rather people know the truth, but understand. Yeah, I mean, it's still a really cool place. I wouldn't mind going and seeing it myself. There you go, chat. There you go. We'll get together, all 12 or 17. Holy cow! All of us will get together and we'll go to the Winchester Manor. We'll do an investigation there. We'll do it. Okay, I'll date myself to hell and back. 1,000 subscribers. We will celebrate at the Winchester Mystery House when this channel has 1,000 subscribers. Yep, yeah, it does function as a bed. Is it a bread and breakfast now, or is it just a tourist? I thought it was just a tour place. I tell you what, though, I bet you the food is crazy good. I'm going to just give a second for everybody to groan in horror. Wait, what? No way, we're at 4.
It's only 600 subscribers away.
Are we at 400?
Over one less. We're 11 less. Sorry.
I was going to say, it's like, wait, the last time I checked it, it wasn't that many. What the hell happened? We need to talk more about ghosts and dead babies. Anyway, though, we're going to move on to the next one. Looked into it for an anniversary trip. There you go. They might take her money. Oh, that's a very good point, Sean. They could have... ooh. Wow, that's horrible. That's a horrible conundrum for her little sister. I love you too, Dad. I love you, son, but I'm not going back to California for more money. That is a very good point, though. Yeah, it may have been in a weird way to protect her financially, too. But anyway, we're going to move on to the big grand finale. This is one, I'm going to be honest with you, when I looked into this, I almost considered making this into its own episode by itself. Because, oh boy, howdy. There might be questions about whether the Winchester house is actually tied to the supernatural and ghosts, or was it just some lady's insanity and a loving sister's attempt to protect her. But there is no denying the darkness of where we're going next, boys and girls. Buckle up, because we're going to the big house. We're going to be talking about Missouri State Pen. And there's probably at least a couple people in the chat that are like, oh dear. Because it's funny. As far as I found, there were no dead babies in this ghost story. But it's probably the worst place. It's probably the one place that's worse than dead babies. Without dead babies. If this one involves dead babies, I'm going to get worried. No, as far as I found, there were no dead babies. There was everything else under the sun at this place. So, Missouri State Pen is extremely controversial. It opened up in 1836. So this thing is actually older than the Winchester rifles, by the way. There were some stories I read when I was doing research for this that said it was originally built with the intention of being a fortress. Like an actual military fort. But they basically decided they needed a prison more than a fort in that area. So they converted it to be a prison. And there's also speculation. Some people argue it was the first maximum security prison in America. Other people say it wasn't. But what I can say for certain is nobody wanted to go there willingly. Except for one person who we'll get to in a little bit. We'll talk about them in a minute. But everything horrible under the sun happened here, supposedly. There were filthy conditions. There were stories that the bathrooms... This was a huge building designed to hold 2,500 prisoners. Max capacity, I mean. And it had 3 bathtubs. 3 bathtubs in each area. Because it was segregated. Because back then, they didn't have women's and men's prisons. They just had prisons. And so there was a cell block just for women. There was a cell block just for black people. There was a cell block for Americans. There was a cell block for foreigners. Like, it was really weird how it was set up. And extremely unhygienic. Very poor qualities. A lot of stories tell about how, like, you know the joke bread and water was all they got? Well, it wasn't a joke in Missouri State Pen. They borderline tortured people, and there's all kinds of bad stories behind it. Some stories claim they were the first U.S. prison to use cyanide execution, which, for the uninitiated, is the gas chamber. Which I understand that the death penalty is kind of a hot topic. Some people are really against it. Some people are okay with it. I'm going to be completely honest with you. The gas chamber actually seemed always cruel and horrible to me. Because what they don't mention about cyanide gas is that it is visual. You can actually see it. So you're strapped in this room, and you see this gas wafting slowly up towards you, knowing that it's going to kill you. And what do? They play over loudspeakers instructions to take deep, slow breaths to make it as quick as possible. It's like, that is not helpful. That sounds kind of cruel, actually. But that's what they did. That is the gas chamber. Hello, Kobold. Yeah, we are talking about Missouri State Pen. Everyone else that might be coming in, you picked a wonderful time because, oh boy, howdy. This place is dark. Like I said, it was built to have a mass capacity of 2,500 people. It had deplorable living conditions, very small cells. They were given minimal food. Now, excuse me, sorry, I'm trying to shuffle things around on my screen so I have my notes ready. Because everything horrible you can imagine happened here. Stories of brutality, stories of female inmates that were raped. The really bad one was the riot of 1954, which I'm kind of surprised I haven't heard about this before now. But want to spend the night. Mr. Bishop wants to spend the night there. I don't know if I'd want to do that. But anyway, back to my point. One of the big moments in the prison's history was in 1954, there was a riot. Now, the big problem with this is that this riot occurred when the prison was at maximum capacity. And it's funny that, like, I found this story and it's like, how come this hasn't become a movie? Because it reads like something out of Hollywood. I mean, it's absolutely insane. You had a prison riot with people are saying, yeah, the stories that I found about it, it was maximum capacity and there was a riot. They completely took over the prison and actually forced all of the staff, all the security to the outer walls of it, and they were just trying to keep people from breaching the gate to get back into, society. And they put out an all points bulletin, anyone and everyone who could come and help, we need help here because it's absolute anarchy. There were staff from the prison that were being held hostage, that were captured. And worse yet, this all happened around, I want to say, like 10 o'clock at night. There was no one ready. The first people on the scene when the prison started sending out the SOS was actually State Highway Patrol, who are not regarded as the best of the police forces in America. But they were the first responders. Now, as the story goes, they were contacting the National Guard because unfortunately the prisoners had gained access to weapon lockers. And so now you had, I believe the accounts, anyway, some of the accounts said that there were some 300 weapons, from batons to guns, that now were in the possession of the rioters. So you had guards on the outside just hoping that they could keep these guys from breaching the gates. And and the guys whose primary responsibility is giving speeding tickets are the first ones to show up. But what's funny is they called the National Guard for help, and the Guard said, well, unfortunately, it's going to take a while for us to get there. We probably won't be able to actually get there for a good while. The state troopers volunteered to go in immediately. Screw waiting for the National Guard. 18 state troopers pulled up their belts, rolled up their sleeves, and said, we'll go in. Against at least 300 armed rioters, with a total prison population of over 2,000. Keep that in mind. Now, the guards and the state troopers were actually able to push the rioters back inside the building by opening fire from the walls. But the rioters had actually found like tubes, like tire tubes, and made these gigantic slingshots, and were essentially mortar firing bricks and pieces of debris and any kind of improvised weapon they can try to fight back. But they were able to gain ground, and again, 18 state troopers actually went into the prison and started trying to get the rioters back into cells and regain control of the building. Now, what's interesting is that over the course of the hours, because I want to say they actually took the courtyards, but it wasn't until around 7 a.m. the next morning that they actually managed to breach the building and get back in. Keep in mind, this started at 10 p.m. at night. So we're talking hours and hours of ranged fighting between law enforcement and convicts. Amazingly, somehow in all of this, almost no one was killed in the initial fighting. There were a bunch of wounded, there were a bunch of injured people, but somehow, miracle of miracles, they didn't have any dead yet. Tragically, I say yet, because around 7 a.m. when they did actually breach into the building, and it turned into a fight of roughly 245 law enforcement officers from all across the board, police officers, state troopers, police from other states came over to help. By the way, National Guard still's not here yet. Don't know where they are, but they didn't show yet. And so, outnumbered 10 to 1, these police managed to break in, and they come to find an amazing discovery. They had allies inside. Because apparently, and this is according to Missouri State itself, the official account by Missouri, the prison was segregated. The black prisoners turned on the other rioters. And so you had the black people and the police actually pincer and sandwich the rioters and capture them and get them back into cells and so on. And it was found out that tragically, several of the rioters had been killed. None of the police were killed. 4 officers were injured in this whole mess. One of the black men was tragically killed when he tried to rescue a hostage. The weird thing is that the Missouri State didn't say his name. They didn't list the names in all this. When I went and actually looked at Missouri State's official website, they didn't list names. But one of the black men was unfortunately beaten to death when he was trying to rescue a hostage. And 3 of the rioters were killed, one of which was actually shot in the head when he, for some reason, tried to charge the police with a blunt object, with a pipe or something. Which, real quick, I know adrenaline can make you do and say stupid stuff, but I want to know how far off the deep end do you have to go to think that charging 200 some odd police officers with guns is a good idea when you have a pipe? I don't think that was the smartest rioter in the history of mankind. Not a good strategy, guys. It did not work out for him. But yeah, only 4 people actually died in the riot, but there were 50 plus wounded. It was very, very violent. Thankfully, not very fatal. I mean, of course, one death is too many. Of course, obviously. But yeah, it was pretty nasty. The official reports were saying that it started around 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. they actually got into the prison building itself to try and capture the rioters. And it was like, I want to say 3 or 4 o'clock before they actually officially said, yes, we have control of the prison again. So we're talking about a very long ordeal. And of course, almost like Hollywood wrote it itself, it wasn't until almost the whole thing was resolved that the National Guard showed up at all. They missed almost all the action. And people joke about the cops never showing up on time, right? But yeah, and that's, like I said, that's just like the tip of the iceberg. Missouri State is filled with horribly violent stories. Like I said, they were one of, if not the first, to use cyanide gas for executions. They were a prison that had men and women together, and really they didn't protect or keep them separate all that much. I mean, there was a lot of violence that happened within the walls between the prisoners, and largely it was kind of just, let it happen. And like I said, nobody wanted to go there except for one person, a woman named, I believe it's pronounced, I believe she called herself Kathy O'Hare. Now, Kathy O'Hare is a very controversial figure, actually. She went to Missouri State claiming that she was going there because she was a political prisoner. She was found guilty in 34, I believe, of espionage, actually. She claimed that she was being arrested because she was outspokenly a member of the Socialist Party. Now, and real quick, I'm just going to throw this out there. We are the Vagrancy Horror. We are not the Vagrancy Political. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what I personally think about any of that stuff. I'm just going to say the facts. She was a member of the Socialist Party, and she was arrested and charged with espionage. She claimed that it was a farce and that they were just going after her because of her political affiliations. And she defied them. She told the judge, give me your worst punishment. Go ahead. I'm not scared. And the judge decided, okay, you want the worst we can give you? We'll send you to Missouri State. And she's like, good, I want Missouri State. I want the worst you can give me. I'm not scared. And what's funny is she came to eat those words because she was sentenced for 5 years. She only served 1. She was released early on pardon, actually, after 14 months. But she, it's funny because she said it made her a believer. It actually changed her faith because, in her words, hell had to be real because she had been there. Missouri State was horrible. She became an activist after that, wrote a book, and got very involved in politics. I want to say she never left the Socialist Party, but she kind of distanced herself. Excuse me again, guys. she got far more into the equal rights and things like that. But she wasn't the only one. There were a lot of people actually who went to Missouri State, and they claimed that they were political prisoners. They were in the wrong parties, or they had made the wrong enemies of politicians. Which, real quick, I'm just going to say this. Socialist, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, I don't care. Imprisoning political rivals is wrong. Like, I don't care what side you're on. I mean, political prisoners are about as far... Stop dying. You can't tell me what to do, Kobold. It is about as far as you can go to being un-American. No. I don't care what your political views are. I don't think anyone should be arrested for that. And I'm just going to put that out there right now. Now, was Miss O'Hare a political prisoner? Were there other political prisoners? I don't know. I mean, that's what they claim. And to be fair, yeah, it sounds about right for how horrible that place was and how cruel they were. Yeah, sounds like it fits the bill to agree. So help me, Malcolm. Hydrate you. It's funny, I mean, you think hard when you hear those iron doors slam. Yeah, it is a unique sound. It is horrible. There have been lots of investigations into Missouri State. What's interesting, what I find interesting personally, is a lot of the accounts are physical. I mean, yeah, you hear about, oh, I found a cold spot, or, oh, I heard something. Most of the stories from Missouri State are people being pushed, being grabbed, being scratched. And here's the thing. That's like powerful levels for for any kind of apparition. For something that doesn't have a body to affect the physical world is it's pretty much the most powerful we can see with ghosts. So whatever is there is next level, very, very strong. Funny enough, there are claims that O'Hare's ghost is there, even though she was released, and she actually moved out of the state. After she was released, she moved to California, and she lived for another 40 years, I think she was. I think she was like 80-something when she passed away, but supposedly there are ghost stories about O'Hare's ghost still haunting the D cell block, which is very strange because, one, she wasn't kept in the D block, and two, she didn't die in the prison. In fact, actually, she went on and lived a very long life after that, and didn't even die in the same state, but people claim that her ghost is there. But yeah, it's a very dark and strange place. What's funny is it was actually still operating until very recently. According to the accounts I read, it was opened until 2004, which is pretty surreal, actually, if you think about it. I mean, what is it now? We're getting close to it being closed for 20 years. Next year will be the 20th anniversary of when it was closed down officially. I believe they do tours through it now. I'm not 100% sure on if like you can just go there if you want. I think they I know they let people go there because I've seen lots of people do investigations. Do you ever really leave? You know, there are some people who say that you kind of don't, in a weird way. And she, like I said, Kobold, it literally made her believe in faith. Because she claimed that when she was there, she actually saw hell. She believed after that. Or who knows, maybe she believed all along and that just affirmed it. I don't know. But she wrote a book, and she became a very active equal rights person. She kind of shied away from the socialist, capitalist things, but yeah, tours and overnight stays. Of course, now you show up. Hi, Zeus. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, gee. That's the bishop over in the corner there, throwing bottles of water at me. Thank you, Bishop. Allergies are horrible. Allergies are absolutely terrible, folks. And whatever you do, don't get old. It's a trap. I constantly say that, and it angers the bishop so much. Anyway, though, hi, Jeebus. You missed literally all the stuff you said you wanted to hear us talk about. Everyone's so happy that I got water. I love you all too so much. Oh, jeez. But anyway, yeah, Missouri State still is open for tours overnight, and its haunting stories are very strong. Like, people get touched, people get pushed around, all kinds of stuff like that. It's definitely one I wouldn't do by myself. See, I personally love myself too much to put myself in danger. Like, I know we were joking about... I offended my dad. I'm joking about, we should all meet up and do a paranormal thing. Yeah, we're going to go somewhere safe, like the Winchester Mansion. You are not getting my butt in Missouri State Pen. Absolutely not. The building that The Shining is supposedly based off of is that here in Colorado? Yeah, it's right up here in Colorado. Guess where else I'm not going? Absolutely not. I love myself way too much. I am too attached to my fat butt to put myself into a place where ghosts attack people. I'm going to pull a Duke. I'll stand in the doorway and watch you. I got your back, Bishop. You go in there. Okay. We'll send the kobold in with you. Locked inside. No, I'm not going to go. No, Mr. Bishop. I am not going to go and lock myself in a cell overnight. Absolutely not. I like myself way too much. I'm telling you. Well, it's only 70 miles. That's nice. 70 miles of nope. That's what it is. You have to multiply that 70 miles by how much I'm not going. 2 weeks from now, live from wherever the hell this hotel is. No, by the way, not happening. I'm going to lay the law down here. I will do Jeebus's idea for an 8-hour stream before I go to Missouri State or the Shining Hotel. Don't send me in there. I'm not going in there. You go in there, kobold. Cheeseman Park? Okay, is Tara messing with me? Cheeseman Park?
No, that's it.
That's a place. They're paved Do it for the views. See, what sucks is that I'm actually the smallest person of our group, and I'm pretty sure any one of the people who work on this production with me could actually pick me up and put me somewhere.
It's pronounced Cheeseman.
I thought you locked the door. Don't say that. I want to go. Wait, hold on. It was a hub for all different tribes to train. Of course, there's the dead babies again. Thank you, Chet. We went 10 minutes. No, it was closer to 20 minutes. We went 20 minutes without mentioning dead babies, and here we are. Dead babies! So yeah, as we spiral out of control with this conversation, let's get back to the point. Missouri State Pen is one of the most infamous prisons in the country. Lots of people died there, some of them under very questionable means. There was brutality, there was indecency. The riot, I'm amazed nobody's made a movie about the riot. Has someone made a movie about the 1954 riot? I feel like someone should, because that sounds like a movie, doesn't it? Am I crazy here? 18 state troopers against 300 armed rioters. Starring Dwayne Johnson. Please come back, don't go away. I do that movie voice pretty good, actually. Thank you. But no, that riot was that riot is very interesting, and like I said, I almost wanted to do a video just about Missouri State, because it has a long history. I'm amazed it was open as long as it was, with how horrible supposedly it was. No movie. Why has there not been a movie? Why do we need a live-action remake of, like, every Disney film, but nobody has the 1954 riot of Missouri State? Well, you would know, Tara. Calling me crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm just a guy out in the middle of the desert sitting in a lazy boy with two undead-looking dogs, you know, talking to people about weird stuff. What are you talking about, crazy? I'm the portrait of sane and reasonable. Weirdo. But anyway, we're actually going over the time from the last video. But unfortunately, yeah, we're going to start winding down, talk a little bit to the chat here. We can also go to the hotel in the mountains. Wow. Wow, Jeebus, welcome to the chat, dude. Stanley Hotel, thank you. Oh boy. Oh, I said the D word, didn't I? Dang it, we're so getting this is so gonna get struck down. We mentioned the mouse. Lizzie Borden house. Is that here in Colorado? No. Lizzie Borden? Yeah, Alcatraz was bad, but not as bad as Missouri. Missouri State stands alone in... This stream was fact-checked by sane and reasonable people. No, it wasn't, Sean. No, it freaking wasn't. Our family is the one fact-checking this stuff, dude. What the hell? You know that's a damn lie. It's in Massachusetts. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't mind going up to the Northeast. There's a lot of weird stuff there. Go there before I freaking go to the goddamn Missouri State overnight. Hell no. Bell Witch Caves. Bell Witch almost made the show, but that one was, that's another kind of controversial one, because there's no evidence to it. It's just a bunch of stories they tell. You're screwed. Yeah, I know. I am so screwed. This is going to take off and be super successful, and I'm going to, you know, I'm just going to have this Grim Reaper of memories. People are going to point to this video and be like, hey, remember? You said at 1,000 subscribers, you said you'd do this? It's like, no, I don't actually. I don't remember that. And that's how we're going to say it. We will put you in the most haunted hotel room, and you can make a video there. Salem. I remember. Salem, Massachusetts would be kind of cool to see. Obviously, as far as visiting places with ties to dead people, personally, me, I want to go to Lovecraft's grave. I'd love to see that. I would love to go there. Or Hitchcock. Hitchcock's grave would probably be really cool to see. But anyway, yeah, we're going to be wrapping up here. Thank you all for showing up. Yeah, we're going to be here Next week, same time, same delusional, bizarre channel. Next week, bring your tinfoil hats because we're going to go really weird. Next week, you're doing fantastic. Thank you, Kobold. Buffalo Bill, really? He's here in Colorado? We gotta go to Salem. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all. Same bat place, same bat channel. We don't have any bats on the set. Which is funny, because actually I kind of wanted some bats, but I like my girls. I like my dogs. Thank you, Kobold. Love you guys, but I'm going to bed. There's supposed to be a hole in it. Everyone came out crazy. Why does that sound so familiar? A hole. The homes are... I'll have to look into that one. But next week, bring your tinfoil hats, boys and girls. Because next week, we're going to be watching the stars. Next week, we're going to be talking about extraterrestrials, aliens, and UFOs. But in the meantime, I am Kristoff N. Chester. We got the bishop over there in the corner. I got my faithful companions here, Famine and Gluttony. And we will see you next week. And as always, keep checking the shadows.